All right, now people have been asking me, how do I water? And that sounds simple enough, but people are confused. They want to know how we do it. So the best thing that I found, and of course every nursery, we got 100 wholesale nurseries in a 10-mile radius of where I'm standing, and every single one of them use this little tiny whiz head sprinkler. This is a Nelson whiz head. You can find them online. I don't know, I pay $6 or $7 a piece for them. It just goes onto a 1/2-inch standpipe. So basically now with water, and I'm going to add this video to a different page, but with volume is important. So you can't run a bunch of stuff through a little 1/2-inch or 5/8 garden hose and have it work. So what we do is I run 5 of these at a time usually with my pump, because I really want a good strong spray that atomizes really well. So I have 5 of them down here. This is a 1-inch PVC line. Then we come up with 3/4 inch, and then put a 1/2-inch fitting on top that this whiz head mounts to. And the opening in here is really small, but you want that volume going into the area. You don't want to restrict it. So I'll show you my pump and pump house. From there, I got 1.5-inch line coming out. It goes down to 1 inch right here. Now, during the winters, this stuff all is setting on top of the ground. So during the winter, what I do is right there, I just go in with the saw, cut the PVC and drain it. And then I go way out back, because that's uphill back there. I don't know if you can see way back by that dump truck. And I blow that out, and I blow it all this way. And it works really well, actually. So I cut this line, all the rest of it I got blew out. But I don't hesitate to cut a line, because if this stuff freezes and shatters, it'll shatter over 20 feet. So I'd rather have to put a new coupling in there in the spring than have to replace 20 feet of PVC. So anyway, this is the whiz head. It's very, very simple. This is how it works. I'm going to stand back. We're going to turn these on. We'll show you how they work. Kathy, go ahead and turn it on, please. You're going to get wet. So you can see you get a nice even pattern. I have this set so it'll water for 20 minutes and then shut off, because I really let my well rest. So the way my timers are set up, the water runs for 20 minutes, and then it'll rest for 40 and then run for another 20. So if I don't interrupt it, it'll do that pattern all night long. So I've got another timer. I can bring it on in the middle of the night if I need to or I want to. I just don't have any of my zones automated, because that would mean that I would have to run low voltage wire all the way from the controller way out there, which just isn't practical. So we've actually got a valve here, and then there's 3 valves back there I'll show you that make it pretty simple as far as controlling the zones and turning stuff off and on. So let's wander over here. All right, so all right, go on. I'm trying to sneak a shot of Pam on the tractor, because she probably doesn't want to be in the video. So she's going back to get a bucket of potting soil. But anyway, these are the homemade sprinkler stands that I made. I have whiz heads on top of here. This is probably like a 2.5 or 3 gallon container. I poured rocks in there, and I got a page on Mike's Backyard Nursery, bought that. And it's just 3/4 inch pipe. And on this one, I got a garden hose fitting here, and then over here I have another fitting so I can run from sprinkler to sprinkler. I'm not sure that works well. I tried it once, it didn't work that great. So what I'm doing this year is I'm running separate garden hoses to each one of these. What I do with these is I actually move them around. Like right now we have plants scattered around that we're selling. So I move them around and run separate garden hoses to each one, so that we can water whatever needs to be watered. I'm not crazy about having garden hoses everywhere, but a lot of this is temporary between now and June as we sell plants. And then after our selling season is over, we'll kind of tighten everything back up into small areas. But this lone sprinkler will cover at least 30 feet in every direction. So it does a pretty good job. So I'm going to use them here on these on these balls, and the balls over there. And then over where our rooted cuttings are, I'll put a couple in there, so that when we need to water that area, we don't have to stand there with a hose and water everything in the beds. We just turn a couple of valves and get some water. So I'm going to walk over there and we'll show you that. Now, basically it's a frost-free hydrant, and what that means is that the valve is 24 inches below ground, so this thing does not freeze during the winter. So I ran a water line, a 3/4 inch water line. There's city water in the house, so I ran a 3/4 inch water line right off of the main line coming into the house out to here. So we actually, the other day I put about 350 foot of hose on here because I didn't have my irrigation set up and I wanted to get way out back. And I actually got pretty good water pressure. So again, that 3/4 inch line gives me the volume that I need. Volume is really, really important. So you don't, the minute you put like a quick coupler on there or something, that reduces the flow down to 3/8 of an inch, and then everything beyond that line is restricted. So keep that in mind as you're setting up your irrigation. The bigger you can be from here, and then as you go out, you can start making things smaller, but keep it as large as you want. You could even go from here with 1 inch, because as water travels through a hose or a pipe, there's some friction loss. So if you've got 3/4 inch here and then run 300 feet of 1 inch, it's kind of like the equivalent of 3/4 inch because you got friction loss in that 1 inch line. So basically here we've got stuff over there that needs to be potted. We've got all of our rooted cuttings. There's a bunch of hardwoods. There's thousands of hardwoods in there. So I want to set up a couple of those portable sprinklers in here so we can just turn on a couple of valves and be done with it. So that's kind of on the to-do list here. Let's head over by the pump. All right, this is our little pump house. This is a Flow-Tech pump. I picked it up at one of the big box stores. So there's 1.5 inch discharge coming out of here. And right below here is a well. Fortunately for us, we only got to be about 20 feet deep. It's a 12-inch casing. I hired an excavator to actually put this in for me. So I've got 1.5 inches coming out here. So during the winter, I pull the pump, drain the pump, disconnect this fitting right here, and that's where when I blow the lines from way out back, it all drains out here. Dustin, let's walk over here. We'll just keep shooting. So I added, the other day, I've got 2 spigots here, and I added 3 more. So I'm going to run individual garden hoses. So I got 5 hose bibs here that I can run to the separate areas where I need to set up those stand sprinklers. Then I can probably run 5 of these at one time off of the pump and get everything up here watered. So we're getting to the point where we'll spend less and less time dragging hoses around. We just open a bunch of valves and then turn it on, and away we go. So all right, let's take a break. We'll walk out back. All right, now this is our back container area. So I've got 10 of these whiz head sprinklers back here. And I've got 1.5 inch line that comes off of that pump and runs all the way back here. It actually runs right underneath the Dustin's feet, comes out here. Now, I can run these 10 heads, but I don't get real good coverage in the corner. So what I did is I ran this line. So I've actually watered back here in 3 zones. So I water these first 5, and then I can run the back 5, and then right now I've got 4 over there, and that's an area that we just set up we're going to use for our sales area. Come winter, we'll get those things off of that hill and down in the area where they're more protected. So basically all I got to do is open and close these valves. A friend of mine made me this handy dandy valve turner out of PVC, because sometimes these valves, when they get a little bit dirty or crusty, they get hard to work. So basically we can turn, it's very simple. We got 3 valves in one area, and we turn on one section, run it for 20 minutes or maybe a cycle of 2 20-minute cycles. That takes 2 hours because I rest the pump after 20 minutes, or I rest the well really after 20 minutes, and then we run the other section. So all of our containers get waters 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th area up front where you saw the water running. Those are our container areas. So we water in 4 different zones. And then everything else runs off of those 5 hose bibs that I showed you that come off of that 1 inch line. So I hope that kind of helps people to understand what we do and how we do it, and how we do it as efficiently as possible and still keep it simple. I could put automatic valves here, but then I would have to run wires all the way from here all the way up there to automate the whole thing. I don't need to do that. I need to be around here every day anyway, and if for some reason we're on vacation, Dustin will come here and turn on water. Kathy's here all the time. I've got another friend, a couple friends who do a really good job helping me out when I need it. So it's a pretty simple system. So if you have any questions, we're going to post this on mikesbackyardnursery.com. Just post your questions below and I'll get to them. Just, you know, probably the next day. So, all right, I'm Mike McGroarty. Happy growing.